the scary atrocities that terrorists in Iraq and Syria perpetrate on women. Take a look at these images closely, depicting the terrifying, well-organized sex slave supply chain that delivers captive girls to the world's most feared terror organization, the ISIS. The images you see may be part of a stage performance, but they disturbingly capture a reality that has shocked the world. Women from various ethnicities, religions, and communities are subjected to atrocities, both for the sexual gratification of its fighters and also as an instrument of horror for the world to see. You have seen these images from a play. Now take a look at these images from a real sex slave market for the ISIS.
50! $50 for Aisha. $100 for Aisha. $150.
And if for a moment you believe these images and accounts are too horrific to be real, remember the story of Yazidi woman Nadia Murad Basi, who shocked the United Nations with her terrifying story of sex slavery.
The Islamic State did not just come to kill our women and girls, but they took us as war booty, as merchandise to be exchanged, serve as part of his military faction. He humiliated me every day. He forced me to wear clothes that didn't cover my body. I was tortured. 3 months after my abduction, I was finally able to escape.
What the world does not know is just how many women like Nadia are currently sexual captives of a monstrous brigade that continues to expand its influence in Syria and Iraq. The women are totally commodified in captivity, kept in cages, traded as currency, presented as gift to warriors, and the ISIS fighters spare no woman or girl. Accounts suggest girls as young as 10 are currently sex slaves of the Daesh. With survivors stepping forward to tell their stories, the world now has a truly horrifying picture of just what it's like to be a sex slave of the ISIS. Bureau Report, India Today.
What hundreds and hundreds of women have experienced at the hands of the Islamic State terrorists is shocking. Some have reported that they were repeatedly gang raped for days at a stretch. They were beaten if they resisted, and worse followed. Let's listen in to their tales of horror.
Only 6 among thousands of mostly Yazidi women united by a single terrifying fate. Girls who have faced hell and made it out alive. Sex slaves of the Islamic State in Iraq who have managed to escape to tell their stories. Finally draped in their own traditional clothes, not languishing naked in cages anymore. These Yazidi women have only their stars to thank for making it out alive. They take careful steps back after months of unthinkable trauma that would always end in quiet and sudden death. They live now, not just retelling their stories, but living with the knowledge that thousands like them remain captive of the Islamic State, enduring unspeakable brutalities. Captured along with their families, including young children from the Sinjar mountain border province. Over 5,000 Yazidis become an army of prisoners when 2,000 managed to escape or were released with grave injuries. Those who remained were women and young girls whose lives rapidly turned into the darkest imaginable existence. The details of that existence now explicit in the accounts of those who have been lucky enough to get out alive. Forced to convert and refusing to do so, the Yazidis were condemned to remain sex slaves. Everything you've heard about the macabre existence of sex slaves is true. The girls and women would be woken up at any hour, raped, tortured, beaten, sometimes forced to endure hour-long gang rapes, given very little food, and then forced back to repeat it all over again, day in and day out. All resistance met with either brutal physical violence or straight execution of the slave refusing to submit herself. How many rapes? How many crimes? How much brutality? The sheer scale of the savagery makes numbers nearly meaningless because the suffering seldom had an end. Gang raped day after day. The slaves would often be sold to other units of the ISIS in other towns for the horror to repeat itself all over again. An Iraqi woman journalist has stepped forward to document the horrors of the ISIS sex slave survivors, to tell the world a story it probably is not prepared to hear. Stories that have silenced the world. Among these accounts, stories of young teenagers, a 12-year-old who remains a captive. The world does not know what will happen to those child sex slaves and whether they will ever make it out alive. Bureau Report, India Today.